So what happens when a government system spends 10 years enforcing a child support order that never actually existed? Today, we're going to break down a federal lawsuit that's not just a legal fight. Nope. It's more like a forensic audit of a decade-long administrative mess. And it's about how one person used tech to expose a truly devastating legal fiction.
Okay, let's just dive right in. This entire decade-long story, it really just boils down to one single powerful question that, believe it or not, state agencies still can't seem to answer. It's the central mystery that frames this whole thing. Where is the order?
You see, the whole case hinges on a single crystal clear entry in the court's own records. Seriously, this one sentence should have stopped a decade of chaos before it ever even got started.
And there it is, the smoking gun. On June 10, 2015, the court itself put it in writing. It was legally powerless to create a child support order. And why? Well, it's because they were missing the kids' social security numbers, and that's mandatory information you absolutely need to establish jurisdiction. Under Colorado law, this means the order wasn't just flawed, it was void from the moment it was supposedly created. A total legal nullity.
Now, this is where the story takes a really weird turn. Years later, a new entry just appears, trying to basically backdate the order and make it real. But its digital footprint tells the real story. The metadata, the data about the data, shows that the fields for authorizer and filing party are listed as not applicable. That's a huge red flag, exposing it as an after-the-fact fabrication. And yet the bureaucracy just kept on rolling, leading to some truly devastating consequences.
Right, so this wasn't just some abstract paperwork mistake. This administrative ghost story became the trigger for a decade of very real, very tangible harm.
So while they were busy enforcing this non-existent order, the state also allegedly used the wrong legal form to even calculate the debt. The parenting plan clearly required Worksheet B for shared custody, but instead officials kept using Worksheet A for sole custody. This one change artificially blew up the debt by tens of thousands of dollars, basically erasing one parent's financial contributions from the equation.
And that manufactured debt? Well, it was used to justify suspending his driver's license. And get this, they did it without the mandatory ability to pay hearing, which is a direct violation of a Supreme Court standard. The result was absolutely catastrophic. It completely destroyed his ability to work, and it led directly to 527 documented days of homelessness, a lot of which he spent living in a U-Haul truck.
And this is what the lawsuit calls deliberate indifference. When the county was shown hard evidence that its own actions had caused this person to become homeless and push them into a severe mental health crisis, their response wasn't to investigate. It was to email a link to a suicide crisis hotline. They were literally offering a phone number for a crisis the state itself had manufactured. It's just unbelievable.
So, faced with this total institutional breakdown, he completely changed his strategy. He stopped trying to argue with the system and instead started to debug it, like a piece of buggy software. He applied a systems engineer's mindset to what had become a high-stakes legal nightmare.
Now, this is where that engineering mindset really comes into play. He developed this method he calls the anger to justice translation protocol. And it's brilliant. It's a way of taking that raw, totally understandable rage you feel when you're wronged and translating it into the cold, hard, evidence-based language that works in a federal court. So that feeling of where the F word is it becomes the legally solid statement. The administrative record contains material contradictions that must be reconciled. You keep the truth of the emotion, but you make it legally powerful. And to really execute this strategy, he had to build his own custom AI-powered system to make sense of this mountain of chaotic data. We're talking more than 53 different evidence sources and over 300 project files. Just a complete mess. Now, this was not just about asking a chatbot a couple of questions. It was a really sophisticated three-part system. First, he created an AI council, which was basically a team of different AI models working together like a legal team, drafting, fact-checking, and stress-testing every single argument. Then he built a perpetual memory system to make sure no piece of context was ever lost. And finally, a process he called digital alchemy took all that messy, scattered data and refined it into a clean, coherent legal argument. And one of the biggest patterns the AI audit found was this jurisdictional shell game. The system started cross-referencing emails and official records, and it revealed how Colorado and South Dakota were just pointing fingers at each other. At one point, an official even admitted to an informal handshake deal that totally sidestepped legally required procedures. And all this left the plaintiff trapped in the middle with no clear way to get a remedy.
So, every single piece of evidence that the AI audit dug up, it wasn't just an interesting fact. It became the actual foundation for a specific constitutional claim in federal court. The whole lawsuit is built on four main pillars. You've got the illegal license suspension, the decade of enforcement on a phantom order, the worksheet fraud that inflated the debt, and finally, the state's deliberate indifference that directly led to homelessness. Each finding from that AI audit provides the evidentiary backbone for one of these really powerful constitutional claims.
And the legal tool that makes all of this possible is a federal law called Section 1983. This is what allows a citizen to sue state officials in federal court when their constitutional rights have been violated. It's a crucial pathway for accountability that exists outside of the state's own system. So, this whole technological approach completely flipped the script. The state's narrative of a deadbeat dad was just systematically dismantled and replaced with the documented reality of a systems engineer meticulously auditing a decade of systemic failure. You could say that technology, in this case, leveled the playing field.
And all of this leaves us with a huge provocative question. Is this just a one-off case, or are we actually seeing the beginning of a whole new era of accountability? An era where technology like AI can give any one of us the power to forensically audit the very government systems that are supposed to be serving us? Makes you think.